The Antifa that I was confronted with in Portland was not as quick to violence as the Antifa that we've seen in Seattle, and certainly seen in Seattle in recent months. You know, there was a period of time for about 30 minutes that I was surrounded by some of these masked agitators, and not one of them assaulted me. Now, they did flash a strobe in my eye for like 30 minutes, but had that been in Seattle a couple months ago, I would have been assaulted within seconds. And that was true outside the federal building where they were throwing and dumping things on me. It was true outside the ICE facility in Tukwila where they, were spraying me in the eye with bug spray. And I brought this up to Katie and I said, the first night I was there, I said, Antifa doesn't seem as aggressive. And I certainly know that they've been, assaulting Katie and other journalists here and there over the last few months. And Katie said, it is the Antifa terror designation from the president. She said, after President Trump made that designation, I mean, they're still violent and dangerous, but we have not seen the level of aggression because they're scared. She said she has heard them, that Antifa is genuinely concerned that President Trump means what he says when he says that he's going to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to note that I think the Trump administration has already done, short of bringing in federal troops, that actually have made Antifa less of a threat. And one of them is obviously the terror designation. These are individuals who are used to being treated with kid gloves by Democratic politicians who will deny their very existence. So why would they not have been emboldened in places like Portland and Seattle to be violent, instantly violent, to hurt journalists, to hurt agents? Because they have Democratic politicians who forever have said, well, they don't even exist, they're not a problem. So the first step, saying, no, you exist, and not only do you exist, you are domestic terrorists from the Trump administration, has been significant. And I think telling Antifa, very powerful people have you on their radar. The other thing, arrests and prosecutions. Katie brought this up as well. 26 people have now been arrested outside this ICE facility in Portland by the federal government and are facing federal charges. Federal charges are much different than state charges. Doing time in a federal prison is significantly different than doing time in one of these county jails run in a sanctuary, soft on crime jurisdiction. And so 26 people, some of them facing 10 years in prison for the assault of federal agents. So I think that is significant, where they're finally seeing that they have consequences for their actions that they have never faced in cities like Seattle and Portland. Because again, if you could get away with violent criminal conduct year after year after year, you can light cars on fire, you can do all these things and nothing ever happens to you. You're just going to keep doing it and your actions are going to get worse and worse and more aggressive and more aggressive. Well, now you have some of these Antifa punks who are facing 10 years in a federal prison. So it's the first time they've ever really seen the FO part of FA. So that's significant. The other thing that's been happening is federal judges have issued stay out of area orders for these Antifa terrorists. So the ones that have been arrested, because it's going through the federal system, they've been told even if they're released pending their trial, they're not allowed to return to this facility. So what that has done is thin out the ranks of Antifa in Portland. You don't see as many of them. Some have been scared, some are worried about consequences, some are facing consequences, and they have orders from federal judges that they can't return to that area. And what that shows me is it is effective, even being vocal without taking any other steps can be effective. And I think that's the strength in President Trump, is he has shown that he's willing to follow through. So when he does something like saying, we're going to treat Antifa like the domestic terrorists they are, that threat in and of itself is effective because they know he means it. So you compare that to Democrats who will say Antifa isn't even a real thing, which, we see what result that has, years of violence. And then it just takes one thing from President Trump to say, I see you, you're domestic terrorists. And all of a sudden they're on notice and they're scared. And they're not as emboldened. There is no way without that designation that Antifa wouldn't have assaulted me while I was there on Sunday when they surrounded me. Absolutely no way. And the other thing is federal agents are empowered to go out there, make their presence known and say, we're not going to tolerate it. Whereas you saw what Portland police did. Why would you be scared? Can you play the video again, Nicole, of that Portland police officer being absolutely worthless? Why would any political extremist criminal be scared of that police officer? Be worried about
Yes, JanSport backpack.
consequences of their actions.
That one.
Do not touch me.
Her.
Do not
Which
touch
one?
me. No, I'm not.
Sorry, I don't mean to make fun of the cop. She's like 4'8".
Do
Put
not
her under
touch
arrest.
Do not touch her. Do not touch me. I am underage.
Walks away. Compare that to what the feds are doing. You tell me what's a more effective way of maintaining law and order. So the Trump administration, without even bringing in National Guard troops, has done more to neuter Antifa's effectiveness than left coast politicians have done in 15 years. And it's the power of words, taking things seriously, being law and order, and making sure that people know, whether it's Antifa or a foreign power, that as the president of the United States, I mean what I say. And my threats, I will make good on them. So I just want to point that out, because just those words and what they've done to Antifa, I think, is worth noting and is quite significant. If you haven't watched it already, make sure to catch our special report, 48 hours in Portland. I boiled 48 hours down to 15 minutes and take you through what I saw while I was on the ground there for 2 days as the city prepares for the potential deployment of National Guard troops to that one block of the city that's totally under control, according to the Portland police chief. Look, I am an unquestioned supporter of law enforcement. But what you just watched there from Portland, that's not law enforcement. They're not. What laws are they enforcing? And that police chief, I continue to get messages from people, the police chief, who say that they have no confidence in him. He doesn't have their back, and he's totally misstating things. So just wild.